Just hit a button, Morty. Give me a beat.
Oh man, okay, alright,
What up, Berry Bears? This is your favorite coach that does the most, Coach Givens. What? And today I am here to talk to you about perfect squares and square roots. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Perfect squares are squares of whole numbers. They are considered to be perfect because there are no fractions or decimals involved for this particular lesson. So perfect squares don't have fractions or decimals. And they literally describe how to find the area of a square. So let's go back and revisit how we find the area of a square. Let's see if you remember. Here's a square. Area equals base times height. So we would multiply the base, which is 2, times the height of the square, which is 2. And of course, 2 times 2 is 4. So the area of this square is 4. Now remember I said perfect squares are squares of whole numbers. Sounds confusing, right? Well, what you're looking at now is a geometric relationship. What that is a relationship with a figure, a shape. In this case, a square. And to find the area of that square, we would multiply the 2 times the other 2. For today's assignment, what we're going to focus on is a numeric relationship. This same relationship, but just expressed in a different way. Specifically like this. So, you've seen this before, 2 to the power of 2, or you could say 2 squared, because it's directly related to how you find the area of a square. So 2 squared is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. All right, let's just practice a little bit. So what if I said, what is 4 squared? Here is a geometric visual. Picture of a square, 4 times 4. So 4 squared is 16. 4 squared is 16. All right, let's do another one. What about this one? 3 squared is 9. The exponent would look like this. 3 squared is 9. These are examples of perfect squares. All right, here's one more and then we'll be done with this. 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49. Here's how it looks as an exponent. 7 squared is 49. All right, I hope that clears it up a little bit, but let's keep it moving. So now let's talk about square roots. Square roots and squares are directly related. Here's how it looks symbolically as a symbol. Basically, it looks like a check or check with a little hat on it. Coach Givens' definition of a square root is the product of a number and itself. Sounds confusing, right? All right, let me just give you an example and maybe that'll clear it up. The square root of 9 is 3. And that's because when you multiply 3 by itself, we get 9. Yeah, that's as clear as mud, Coach Givens. Let me say it again. The square root of 9 is 3. Because when 3 is multiplied by itself, we get 9. So when you're thinking of square roots of numbers, what you need to think is what number times itself will give me 9. And in this instance, it's 3. All right, let's just practice for a second. Here's one. What is the square root of 25? So you have to think, what number times itself gives me 25? Well, the answer is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. What is the square root of 100? Well, we have to think. What number times itself gives me 100? Well, 10 times 10 is 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. Squares and square roots are fact families like that. They go hand in hand. So let's practice a little bit more with both. The top one says square root of 16. So then you have to think, what number times itself equals 16? Well, 4 times 4 is 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. Well, then we can also check that out and say, okay, well, that's the square root. What about the square? Well, they're related, see? 4 squared is 16. All right, the second one says, what is the square root of 49? Well, what number times itself is 49? 7 times 7 is 49. And you know what else? 7 times 7 is 49. All right, the last one's pretty easy if you get it so far. So what's the square root of 64? Hopefully you said 8. And what is 8 squared? 64. So maybe this gives you an idea of how squares and square roots are related. Now that we've gotten the basics out the way, let's talk about how we use our resources. In this instance, we're talking strictly calculators. So pull out your cell phones. All right. If you have an Android-powered device, your calculator may look something like this. Notice that you do not see a square root symbol on this booger at all. What you're going to need to do is rotate your phone so that way it looks like this. It should automatically switch over, and the 2 buttons we're going to use for today are located here. The square root symbol and then the squared symbol. See, x squared. If you have an Apple-powered device, your calculator looks like this. And of course, there's no square root symbol here either. So what you want to do is rotate your device, and it looks like this when you rotate it. It should automatically change. And the 2 buttons that we're going to focus on if you have an Apple-powered device are located here. See, squared symbol and the square root symbol. Now that we have our resources together, let's practice. Here we have on the first one, it says 7 squared. Well, this one is easy. You know what 7 times 7 is. 49, of course. But before we submit the answer, let's just double check. Here's how you input it. Type the number 7 and then hit the squared button. Boom, 49. Simple enough. All right, let's do the next one. 13 squared. So in your calculator, type 13 and then hit the squared button. Boom, 169. Cool, 169. Excellent. All right, 8 squared. And you know 8 squared. 8 times 8 is 64. So let's check with our calculator. 8 squared, 64. Nice. All right, let's do the next one. See how easy this is? 14 squared. Not really sure, so 14 squared, 196. Now, if you're one of those students who just don't really trust new things, especially with calculators, and you want to double or triple check to make sure that your answers are correct, all you would have to do is type in 14 times 14, because that's what 14 squared means. And guess what you get? 196. And then finally, the last one, 37 squared. 37 squared. 1,369. And then, of course, you could always double or triple check just to make sure by doing 37 times 37, and you get 1,369. Excellent. So now we're looking at square roots. First one, I think we did this one already, right? What's the square root of 9? What number times itself gives you 9? Well, 3 times 3 is 9, so the answer here should be 3. But let's double check with our calculator. So in order to find the square root of a number, you type the number first, 9, and then you hit the square root symbol. And guess what you get? 3. Because 3 times 3 is 9. All right, well, if that's the case, what's the square root of 16? We've seen this one before too. What number times itself gives you 16? 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. If we want to check that answer, we type in the number 16 and then hit the square root symbol. 4. Now, let me just say this. If you push the square root symbol first and then the number, nothing will happen. You have to type the number first and then hit the square root symbol. All right, moving on. So what is the square root of 196? Well, I'm not 100% sure. I think I know, but let's let the calculator do the work. 14. Shortcut to check it. Well, 14 squared should be 196. Looking good. All right, what's the square root of 121? Hit the square root button and the answer is 11. And I know that's correct because 11 squared is 121. And then finally, 225. What is the square root of 225? 15. Because 15 times 15 is, guess what? 225. All right, now that we're done inputting our answer, I just want you to know that we got all of them correct. And here is the results for our submission of square roots. Hopefully, this video has helped you to, number 1, understand what squares and square roots are, and number 2, how to use a resource to find them. If you have any extra questions or you still need clarity on some things, please send a comment through Google Classroom. You could YouTube more videos, Google it, or ask an older sibling or a parent. If you need help, the opportunities for help are endless. You have the internet. I'm done for today. I'll holler at you later. Bye.